Morning, all. All right, so Montreal and Winnipeg. So the 3 and 4 seeds in the North have secured their upset victories after Montreal upset the Toronto Maple Leafs and their fan base last night. And yeah, so we have two teams that most had picked to not move on to the next round, moving on to the next round. And it is going to be interesting to see whoever wins this series how they fare against their American opponent in the semifinals. That will be very interesting to watch. And yet, there was something I said during the season, which was that if we did see upsets in the North in the first round, then it would be very difficult to say, okay, well, that's proof then that those teams weren't as good as the ones in the other division. And then, anyways, because you can argue, well, yeah, but they just got upset that year. You can go through any number of playoff years where a team gets upset that might have been the better team. They just lacked that killer instinct or they just didn't have the depth. And this is where things are going to be different for Montreal this time around. The Winnipeg Jets can roll four lines. The Winnipeg Jets also have some depth issues on their blue line, similar to what Toronto had, but forward depth is huge. You can't just shut down one line with the Winnipeg Jets and say, all right, so we're going to succeed on that. So that's going to be different. And on the Winnipeg front, the difference between playing against Edmonton and playing against Montreal, I really think Carey Price is going to be a massive difference. No offense to Mike Smith, but it's playoff Carey Price. So I would not be surprised if a lot of people take Montreal because it's playoff Carey Price. Not that playoff Connor Hellebuyck has been all that bad himself. So we'll look at the Winnipeg side first. They won game one over the Oilers, 4-1. Two empty net goals in that game, making it look more lopsided than it was. Hellebuck's the first star. Game two, the Jets win 1-0 in overtime. Stastny gets the winner at 4:06 of overtime. Hellebuyck was the second star in that game because Stastny was the first star. Game three, they won 5-4 in overtime. Ehlers scored at 9:13 of that game. And then they won game four, of course, in triple overtime, 4-3. Kyle Connor with the winner at 6:52 of the third overtime period. So a lot of extra time, but they've also had a lot of time off. So I think that's a pretty good trade-off. I think Winnipeg will take that as the trade-off. It's a matter of how much rust have they developed between their last game and tomorrow night's game against Montreal, where you're going to have a Montreal team that feels probably pretty excited and there should be a lot of adrenaline going for them. Also, on the Montreal side, they have experience too. There are some experienced players on that Montreal roster. And the funny part is when your team loses and you have that experience, you go, oh, you're old. But when you win, you go, man, that experience though, right? So the leading scorers for the Jets in round one in 4 games, Wheeler had 2 goals and 3 assists. That matches Mark Scheifele's 2 goals and 3 assists. Kyle Connor, who had an up and down regular season, 2 goals, 2 assists for him in the postseason. And Josh Morrissey, 1 goal and 3 assists in 4 games. The wild cards in this series, I went with Andrew Kopp, who only had 2 assists in 4 games, but he showed during the season there's some explosive scoring potential there. And Nick Ehlers, who only played 2 games, but had 2 goals in the 2 games. So as long as he plays, he's dangerous. Notice there's a lot of forwards on this list that I'm saying, yeah, these guys can all score. Dubois, the guy I'm waiting to break through here, he had 2 assists in 3 games, but it feels like with Dubois, we're on the verge of maybe getting the playoff Dubois that Columbus had last year. Not the one from the shift to start this season, but the playoff Dubois. And Mason Appleton, 1 goal in 4 games. I've always liked Appleton, and yeah, we'll see how things go for him in this round. Hellebuyck, 4-0, a 950 save percentage against the Oilers, 1.6 goals against average. Those numbers are pretty good. Those numbers aren't bad, and they will likely lead to some people picking Winnipeg over Montreal because they may consider that Hellebuyck cancels out Price. At the very least, we should not be getting large scores in this game. They should be relatively low-scoring games overall, but we'll see because that's not always predictable either, right? Power play, the Jets were 30% in that first round. Their penalty kill, 81.8%. If power play was lethal, 5-on-5, they were better than the Oilers. I mean, 3 of those games go to overtime, but the Jets' numbers throughout that series were really pretty good. So we'll see how things work against Montreal. They have their 4-game winning streak on the line. Now, on the Montreal side, Montreal has their 3-game winning streak on the line. So they took an unattractive approach to this. One that you wouldn't necessarily want your team to take, but they get to that next round anyways. So they won game 1 2-1. Paul Byron with the shorthanded goal that was the winner there, and that was a fantastic goal. They lost game 2 5-1. Their penalty kill went 4 for 6 in that game. So normally 2 for 6, well, 4 for 6. So yeah, I mean that was part of the reason they lost that game. They lost game 3 2-1. All 3 goals were in the second period in that game. Game 4, they lost 4-0. Campbell had 28 saves in that game. So after game 4, there wasn't really anything indicating that the Montreal Canadiens were going to come back and win this, other than the fact they were against the Leafs, which is not a generalization that I would throw out there, and I didn't. Game 5, they won 4-3 in overtime. Nick Suzuki scores at 59 seconds. We go to Game 6 in Montreal. That one was a 3-2 win in overtime. Kotkaniemi scored at 15-15, which makes sense since his number's 15. And then in Game 7, they win 3-1 as Carey Price makes 30 saves and stays in the heads of every Toronto Maple Leaf player for the rest of the summer. Toffoli, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in 7 games. That's your number 1 scorer for Montreal. Montreal is not a team of a bunch of superstars. It is a lunchbox type team that they'll outwork you. And I think that's part of what happened with Toronto. They were willing to pay the price in games 5, 6, and 7. And once they treated 5 like this is it. If we don't win, this is the end for us. They just kept that mentality through game 7. And Toronto never really got it together, which is a testament to how well Montreal was playing. Suzuki, 2 goals and 2 assists. Perry also had 2 goals and 2 assists. Armia had 2 goals and 2 assists. Montreal, much like Winnipeg, you can't just shut down one line and go, there, we've got this is done for us. So again, depth, while we don't talk about it enough during the regular season, you can't talk about it too much in the postseason. You really can't. Depth is really important. Kotkaniemi with 3 goals in 6 games. Remember when he was scratched in game 1? Nope. Guy who scores clutch goals, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not going to be riding the bench. Or he's not going to be, a healthy scratch in this series. No chance. Stahl, 4 assists in 6 games. Eric Stahl, while it was kind of a mess during the regular season, in the postseason has been pretty good. Along the same lines as Kyle Palmieri with the Islanders. Caulfield, 1 assist in 5 games. Waiting for him to break through. He's had his opportunities. It's not like he's not getting those chances, right? Josh Anderson, 1 goal in 7 games. There were at least 3 times last night that I counted that he had a prime opportunity that just didn't go for him. So eventually those are going to start to go in, or should. It's not always a predictor. Sometimes it's just one of those, well, he just didn't get the goals there, and then the opportunity stopped coming. Of course, Carey Price, the goaltender, 4-3, 932 save percentage, 2.24 goals against. So if you compare the numbers, Hellebuck's numbers are better, but we all know that it's playoff Carey Price, so we'll see. Power play for the Montreal Canadiens, 15.8%. It's been a problem. Their penalty kill was excellent in that first round, 87%. But again, the Leafs' power play has been a massive issue the second half of the season and into the playoffs. We'll see how Montreal does against Winnipeg. So, all right. This is going to be a fascinating series, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to watching this and seeing what happens. Now, during the regular season, I know people are going to say, well, the regular season doesn't matter. Fine, we're just going to look at it. February 25th, Montreal lost in Winnipeg 6-3. Winnipeg then wins in overtime February 27th 2-1. March 4th, Winnipeg wins in overtime in Montreal 4-3. March 6th, Montreal destroys Winnipeg 7-1, realizing, hey, if we don't go to overtime, we can win it, just in regulation. Montreal then goes to Winnipeg and wins March 15th, 4-2. And then Winnipeg wins at home on March 17th because it went to overtime, 4-3. April 8th, Montreal loses at home against Winnipeg 4-2. Winnipeg wins 5-0 on April 10th in Montreal. And April 30th, Montreal won the final meeting between these teams 5-3. So, yeah, out of the 9 meetings, I believe Winnipeg won 6 of them. But again, postseason's a whole other beast, right? Montreal proved that against Toronto. We'll see what happens against Winnipeg. Let me know who you think wins this series in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.